Part 4 showed how it was starting to run 4-gauge wires from the solar panels through the refrigerator vent and down from the roof. But that didn't actually work out in this case. And I didn't have my video camera during the parts where we made the change, so I shot it with my phone, and I've included it as part 5 to fill in the gap between part 4 and this part. So you might be wondering why I use 4-gauge wire. Many people use 6-gauge, which costs less. And you can run 30 amps through a 6-gauge wire of about 25 feet, and it works okay. But one reason to go bigger is voltage drop. Using a larger wire means more of the energy that comes from the solar panels will actually reach the batteries. Google handy bob and voltage drop if you want to find out how I learned about this. Another reason to go big on the wiring is because, well, it may cost a little more. It costs a lot less than having to rip out wiring that's too small and install bigger wire. So my philosophy on this project was go big or go home. I built in the capacity to upgrade so that I can add solar panels or change to a larger inverter without having to change any of the wiring. In the last video, I showed how I drilled into the roof through a wall between the fridge and the shower. And then the next segment I'll show you where the combo box goes and how I put sealant around it. And we'll also find out if I put enough sealant on it at first. And while I didn't run any wires down the refrigerator vent, I did use the refrigerator vent as a way to keep some of my wiring out of the sun and rain. Well, we've had so much rain lately. Finally have a day when it's not raining all day. And I get up here and take another look. I've got my connectors ready, and I've made the connections there. I came up with sort of a novel arrangement here. I decided to use conduit to run the wires underneath the refrigerator vent cover, and then I have them joined to, and then it goes in loom from there. And it's sort of a Mickey Mouse arrangement, but I've got the connection here. I put a lot of silicone in there to hopefully keep any water from getting into that conduit and going back to the combiner box. And the advantage of having all the rain lately is I get to leak test everything. And my test failed, although I don't think any water got in from the conduit. I think it got in here, and I'm not really sure if it came in underneath the box or if it came in through the screws. I think I'm going to have to put some sealant on top of those screws eventually just to make sure. But I got the feeling that there was some water coming in here, because as soon as there's a puddle that tends to form here, I'm going to fill this with some more sealant. But when the water was here, and then I moved the puddle away, and I went down, and there wasn't water dripping down as much. So, and I also found some water in the combiner box. I've dried most of it out. You can see a little bit in there, right past my fingernail. Combiner box, I used a standard wire cap to combine the ground wires. And for the positive and negative wires, I used splicer reducers to connect the 4-gauge wire to the incoming 10-gauge wires from the panels. I also ran an inline fuse holder on the positive wire from each solar panel. So this is my ground wire from the panels, and then I splice both of them into the ground wire that goes down to the box below. And what I've done here is I've taken the number 10 wires from the panels, I take the black ones and I connect them to this little metal square thing called a splicer reducer. I got that for about $5 at Home Depot. I actually have 2 of them. Here's the other one for the positive. And what I do is I put the number 10s in on this side and the number 4 on the other side. So it makes an easy way to attach those wires and go from multiple wires to one larger wire. And I've just got this one here taped up, and that's the best solution I could come up with. If you know of a better one, feel free to leave it in the comments. And these here are little fuses. I can put any kind of fuse in here. Right now they're 30 amp fuses, just to make sure that individual panels, if there's a short or something, I'm protecting each one of the panels. So the solar circuit here has fuses on each of the panels, and I also have a circuit breaker before the charge controller. So I'll show that to you later when we go down in. And I've gotten, I think, all of the water out of the combo box now. So, and I'm pretty sure the screws are the problem, because I'm seeing a little bit of water that I can't get out down in the base of the screw holes. So I'm going to put some silicone in there before I go ahead and tighten this up, and then maybe that'll make it possible for me to open this without too much trouble, without leaking. We'll see how that works. Okay, I got little dots of silicone on each of the screw holes. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the combo box cover back on. Tighten everything up. We're supposed to get more rain this week, so I'm going to get a chance to see if this is going to solve the problem. Okay, I've gone ahead and added some more sealant, self-leveling sealant there in that spot where the rainwater was collecting, so that'll serve as a buffer that hopefully will keep the water, if that's the spot where the water was going. And also, it's very possible that I didn't leave enough time after I put the sealant on last time before the rain, and I get the feeling we're going to get some rain pretty soon. So I'm going to take one of my battery mock-up boxes, and I'm going to stick it on top here so that kind of a buffer. And I'm going to take a plastic bag with some weights on it and put it over that. Hopefully that'll keep the water out while the box lets the sealant dry. We'll see how well this holds up in the next rainstorm. So the good news is we've passed the leak test now. I didn't have to wait long to find out, because of all the rain that came in Portland before we left. I was sure that that would not leak. And we've also had some really strong rainstorms across the country, so I know it's leak-proof now. Now we're finally done on the roof. There are a few things I didn't show. I screwed a ground screw to each panel, and after I drilled all the holes for the panels, I stuck some rubber washers underneath the corners before inserting the screws. So I didn't show the process, but basically these have longer screws, and this metal part isn't really touching the roof, so I used a few washers to make a nice supporting structure there, and then put the screw in and bolted it down.
So far the panels have stayed solidly attached across more than half the country. Last, I made sure to add plenty of roof sealant over each of the panel Z brackets. I not only covered the screw holes, but I put sealant all over and around the bottom of the brackets, so the screws are completely covered, and there's no way for water to work its way underneath the bracket.